Hello, I'm Commissioner Charles Hines, and welcome to the chair. The purpose of this show is to give a forum for our community to have access to important information that's affecting our decisions on the county commission. And our first show here, our guest is Sheriff Tom Knight. Welcome, Sheriff Knight.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
And we have several things that we want to discuss today, but Sheriff Knight, I've always felt that our community turns over maybe every 5 to 10 years. And
Right.
you've been sheriff now, this is your third term?
Third term. Yep.
So take a minute and let the community know who you are, your background in law enforcement. I think that'd be useful.
Well, like you, I was raised here in Sarasota County and grew up down in Venice, went to Venice High School, Manatee Junior College, and Florida State University, and started my career with Sarasota Police Department right here in Sarasota County in 1987. And wanted to get with a larger agency, more urbanized, so I went to work for the Highway Patrol and worked down the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area and traveled throughout the state of Florida for 20 years and built my career there, and then ended in Tampa. And the most important thing is that, like being our communities we want to serve, is this was my home. And my wife and I wanted to take the challenge on of me serving a community that I grew up in and trying to do good things and being a good sheriff and just trying to do the right thing. So it's been fun. It's been a great 10 years. It's been a great 32 years in law enforcement. And so as we near the end of my career, and I've seen a lot of different things happen over law enforcement and traditional law enforcement and how law enforcement's evolved. But the most important thing is that we have a good sheriff's office, and the 1,000 people that work there were always funded properly, thanks to the county commissions over the years, and that we have a very safe community, great place to live.
Well, that's great. You made a couple points that, since you've taken over as sheriff, you always provide us statistics about crime rates and so forth. And they've consistently fallen since you've taken on this role. But maybe talk to us a little bit about how law enforcement's changed since when you first started and how you're running the sheriff's office.
Well, law enforcement is a big business, and like I said, you guys always fund us the right way it needs to be funded to keep this community safe. And but right now it's a $116 million budget, and I knew when I took over in 2009 that the money was tight, and we were always going to have to look for a different way to provide service and protective services, but also to handle quality of life. That is a big demand here in Sarasota County. And so we transitioned the Sheriff's Office in 2009 into what's called intelligence-led policing. And with data systems and intelligence and technology and how we handle that thing with our analysts, it's worked very well. Our crime rate has gone down over 50% in 10 years. We had the greatest decrease of law enforcement agencies that serve a population of over 100,000. We're very proud of that. So that isn't really me, it's the quality of the people that work at the Sheriff's Office. But the whole idea is to evolve a law enforcement agency like you do in any business, any government, is being able to have foresight and to take a risk or a chance, if you may, that the people that you employ will embrace an attitude of a new way of doing business, a better way of doing business, and take that risk that it'll work. And so we heavily are involved in intelligence-led policing, which is really the concept of, instead of throwing a fishing net out and just trying to rush your way out of problems and just arresting a bunch of people, is identifying prolific offenders and identifying those people who have created the most chaos and problems in a community, and working with the prosecutors to make sure those people are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And then the other people will kind of evolve and we can handle them better. But to find the prolific offenders, and at that time it was 60% of our criminals, 6% of them, is identifying them and removing them from society, and we've done it very well. So that's a very abbreviated version. It's much more intense and encompassing that, but the philosophy's there of how it works. And then on top of that is just the evolution of law enforcement, how we train, what we do, how we handle people. We're very heavily into what's called rightful policing now, which is, what our community deserves is how we interact with people, what we do with people, how we treat people. In my 32 years, it's changed immensely of how we interact and what we do. And most importantly is we do much more than police now than when I took over. When I was a young police officer, we showed up for calls for service, and if there's no crime there, we left, but we wouldn't do anything to help anybody out. Right. So the evolution of law enforcement, we're much more social service workers now, but they're also trained to handle the heavy lift things that should happen, shootings, homicides, the crime issues that we dealt with many years ago. And I will say this for this community is in my 32 years, we went from carrying wheel guns and redwood nightsticks to my deputies go to work now with automatic weapons in their cars and AR-15s. And it's unfortunate that we've come to that with active shooter situations and crisis management of these type of scenes, but they're very well trained, they're very well vetted, and this county always gives us the money to make sure we have the workforce to take place of this.
Let me jump in there because you hit on a lot of points that I don't know that a lot of people in our community fully understand our relationship between the county commission and yourself as a constitutionally elected official. You don't work for us. We don't work for you, but we deal with your budget, and you've always done a good job coming to us as a county commission to explain why you need certain things. And you were referencing some of those. I know recently you came to us and said this community would benefit from a second helicopter. And explain maybe to the community why that was important, why that was something that you felt the taxpayers of Sarasota County should fund.
The flight section of the Sheriff's Office, which is funded by the Board of County Commissioners, was one helicopter that was purchased in 2005. Wonderful piece of equipment. It drops water, it protects our interstate systems, but it was aging, and helicopters will fly forever, but we were missing 33% of our calls, and that's a helicopter that's used for all the fire departments, every police department, every public safety entity in Sarasota County. So we were missing calls for service. We were missing the ability to handle crime properly and to provide that service. But the County Commission back in 2007 had the vision to create impact fees. And impact fees, part of them was designed to make sure that public safety agencies had the equipment they needed for additional capacity of the county. As the county grows and we have more citizens and services are evolving, that those things could be purchased. And so we did our analysis on it, we did our data, we came in and did a presentation to the 5 county commissioners, showed how many calls for service were missing and what that helicopter's needed, what it does, give some anecdotal examples of what it does, how it helps protect the community. And then you approved as a county commission the use of impact fees. No ad valorem taxes, none of the taxpayers' money. It was really, I guess you understand it better than I do, it was the housing industry paying for the additional capacity of the
county. Well, it was an expanded service. We doubled the amount of helicopters, and that's exactly what those impact fees are to deal with. Now that perfectly segues into how that was such an easy decision for when you came to us and said, this is why we need that second helicopter. Now recently, well, it's not so recent now, maybe almost a year ago, 6-8 months ago, you came to the county commission and pointed out, hey, we got a little issue going on here, and I don't mean little, an issue that's going on with our jail and our jail population. And talk to me and talk to the audience a little bit about the potential evolution of where we need to go, because we're having this discussion. You and I were on a panel yesterday at Tiger Bay in Sarasota that talked about, maybe something different, new ideas other than just building a new jail. What are you thinking about that? What are our needs?
I don't have the perfect answer, but I believe in my 32 years and seeing the evolution of law enforcement, how we handle people. We transitioned to intelligence-led policing, away from community policing. We embedded all that together. I would just think and believe that the cost of building a jail is enormous. The jail is overfilled right now. So we are seeing issues, but I think it's time for us to have a generative discussion as community leaders for the people that represent the 400,000+ citizens about, do we want to spend that type of money, or do the citizens have the desire to spend $120,000 to build a new jail to keep doing what we've always done?
120 million?
It'll be 120 million by the time it's done. So, it was 103 million, it was 86 million when I took over in 2009, now it's 103 million, but I think the citizens all know that'll end up being around 120 million by the time it's done. So, I mean, what is out there that other communities are doing that makes sure that their community is still safe? That is a community corrections type of facility, a facility that allows for reentry, not recidivism, reentry back into a jail, but reentry from a jail back out into the community, where we provide them with the inmates with some type of assistance to get them back up and running. Because right now we're running at over 65% recidivism rate in the jail. So we're cycling through the same people over and over. So that's the definition of insanity. We're doing the same thing over and over with our courts. with our prosecutions. So what can we do that's different, maybe better, but most importantly for me as your sheriff, cheaper?
Well,
and how's that look?
Well, that's what I think, part of this conversation is to educate our community. What other options are there? I think when initially what people hear is, well, the jail's at capacity. Okay, the jail's an older facility.
Right.
I think it was built in 1975.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Just build a new jail. But as you talked about, is the folks that are re-entering the community, or the recidivism, is just building a standard jail. Is that getting us to where we want to be as a community?
Right.
What's your vision in this idea of potentially a facility that's maybe related to the jail, but that might get us better results than just locking people up?
Well, they're proving to work. There's facilities in Kentucky, facilities in Orange County, Florida, facilities in Miami-Dade, facilities in Broward. And I think it gives the opportunity for those individuals who have addiction problems, predominantly individuals who have addiction problems, who don't have a mother, father, a husband, a wife, or brother or sister, the ability to get back up on their feet and have somebody prop them up. That's where we come in a step-down type facility, a community corrections, whatever the name of that is, it's always made, is that they're proven to be effective, they will work, and I tell people all the time that you can't arrest your way out of addiction. I've been in this 32 years. You can't arrest addicts and make them straight. And so it's a little bit of a different mindset, especially in law enforcement, especially for a community who believes in just locking people up. But it's been proven to work. I believe in it. I believe that we need to have that generative discussion with the leaders, the judges, the state attorney, the public defender, the sheriff, and the county commission, and do it publicly and allow the citizens to sit and listen, understand it, and if they approve it, that would be the way to move this forward instead of building another $120 million facility, lock them down. And I think everybody knows out there, if you build a jail and add 300 beds, the beds will get filled up. And I can tell this community, if you build a jail for 300 beds at $120 million, you're talking about $10 million a year of operational needs right now. That would be the deputies who staff it, the medical contracts, the commissary contracts, the health care, everything that goes on inside of a jail facility that most people don't know. Big money.
And I don't know that we as a community get to the results that we're looking for. We've spent a lot of time over the last 3 or 4 years dealing with homelessness, mental health, drug addiction, and if the answer is just putting them in jail, that doesn't solve anything. No. So I think I know the County Commission has made this one of our top 10 priorities to deal with. The community is starting to get involved with it.
Yes.
And I think we need to continue to have this type of discussion, look around the country, which you've already done, and try to model something that's working in other places, in bigger communities, and create, I don't know, we've named it yet, we're calling it a facility. And maybe that would help us going forward over this next 6 months or a year to identify what we can call it. Right. Because building anything takes time. It takes design, it takes political will, it takes money. And so what I hope in the next 6 months or a year, we as a community can agree on what type of facility we need and get started on it.
Right. And I think as a commissioner, you guys always want to use the money to benefit the citizens. A citizen gets nothing out of a jail.
Right.
They get a lot out of a park. They get a lot of infrastructure, filling potholes, doing the things in their neighborhoods that improve the neighborhoods, the value of their homes. And so a $120 million jail, there's really not a whole lot of people out there that get a lot of use out of it, except for drug addicts. Right. And so I believe, and I've been doing this 32 years, we have a smart county, we have a smart county commission, we have a good leadership, we have good elected leaders, and I think it's, the public will be engaged, and I think it's just the right time, right opportunity to look to do something different. And the analogy I would use with the commissioner is very much like intelligence-led policing. When I took over, I totally changed the concept of how we policed Sarasota County. And that's a bit of a risk, but I think that this community is very smart. We have a lot of intelligent people here, and at the end of the day, it's going to save a lot of money. And get people back up on their feet and working again.
Well, that's great. Well, Sheriff Knight, thanks for coming on the chair, and appreciate it, and look forward to working with you on this issue and all the other issues involved in Sarasota County.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you very much.